Friday, Ty Lue celebrated his birthday, had a Lakers-themed birthday cake. Everybody thinking he's going to be the next head coach. Well, Adrian Wojnarowski just tweeting moments ago, negotiations between the Lakers and Ty Lue have reached an impasse without a deal to make him the franchise's next head coach. League sources telling ESPN. Let's bring in Woj right now. Woj, what happened? This looked like they were going in this direction. He was going to be the next head coach. Why the impasse?
Kevin, they've been unable to come to an agreement on a contract, on staffing for a potential assistant coaching staff. And right now, talks have ended. And whether they start up again, whether the Lakers decide to proceed differently with Ty Lue, right now they don't have a deal, and there's an expectation that there's not going to be a deal that makes Ty Lue the next Lakers head coach.
You mentioned in a tweet recently, following up the initial tweet about the impasse, about Jason Kidd and his involvement on this coaching staff. What more can you tell us?
Well, Jason Kidd interviewed for the head coaching job in L.A., met with Rob Pelinka, with Kurt Rambis, who's a part of that hierarchy now, made a strong impression with them, and certainly had success in Milwaukee, Brooklyn. And I think what attracted the Lakers was the impact he had on the young talent in Milwaukee that you're seeing now have fully blossomed and maybe headed here toward the conference finals under Mike Budenholzer, that they wanted, I'm told, Ty Lue to consider Kidd as part of his staff. And where Ty Lue fell on that, it is unclear to me. But typically a head coach wants to bring in his own staff, and sometimes they may not want someone who interviewed for the head job. But certainly the Lakers felt strongly about Jason Kidd and that he could have an impact, especially with some of the young players in L.A. That was not a sticking point in this. They can't get there so far on contract, and there's a lot of issues that go into completing a deal, and they reached the end of the road this evening in those talks.
Woj, what's next now for the Lakers in this head coach search?
It's unclear, Kevin. They'd interviewed 4 candidates. We mentioned Jason Kidd, Juwan Howard, assistant in Miami, and Monty Williams has already gone to Phoenix. So either the Lakers can decide to re-engage on Ty Lue and maybe present a deal that is more appetizing to him, and maybe they find a way to still get it done, or maybe they just move on now. But that's a decision the Lakers are going to have to make here. They had hoped to have a coach in place by the pre-draft combine next week in Chicago, and if they don't hire Ty Lue, well, that's in jeopardy.
We'll see how this plays out with Jeannie Buss as well as Rob Pelinka moving forward. Adrian Wojnarowski with the very latest with the Lakers and Ty Lue.
Let's bring in Stephen A. Smith now, live from Oakland. We'll get you to Rockets Warriors in a second, but first, Stephen A., I'd like your reaction to the news that Woj just broke. Talks shutting down between the Lakers and Ty Lue. What do you think?
Well, I'm not surprised. And I'm not surprised, number one, because I've seen what's been going on with the Lakers, and number two, because I know Ty Lue pretty well. Let's be clear about something here. Since Magic Johnson abruptly resigned as president of basketball operations with the Los Angeles Lakers, who is running the organization? We simply do not know. Jeannie Buss admittedly has little to nothing to do with basketball. It's not me making decisions. It's Magic Johnson making basketball decisions. That's not my realm. That's not my lane. Okay, but then we heard the name Linda Rambis, and we hear the name Rob Pelinka. So you don't know. It's in flux right now, and it's a bit haphazard. So you have that situation. And then we get to Ty Lue. Understand something about Ty Lue. He is a person that's very prideful. He is an individual that believes in his accomplishments and believes that there's a certain level of respect that should be accorded to a coach of his credentials. Remember, when he first got the Cleveland job, he was initially an assistant. He was supposed to be the head coach for the Cleveland Cavaliers, but Dan Gilbert, the owner for the Cavs at the time, wanted David Blatt. So what does they do? You got Griffin as the GM. He brings on Ty Lue as a lead assistant, being paid one of, if not the highest paid assistant in basketball. It was ultimately his job, the coach in waiting, the head coach in waiting. He takes over the Cleveland Cavaliers, and he guides them to 3 consecutive NBA Finals appearances, along with an NBA championship. So his belief is, excuse me, what does a championship coach bring to the table. He certainly doesn't have to capitulate and hire assistants you want him to hire. He wants who he wants. And if you wouldn't hold anybody else to those conditions, don't hold me to those conditions. That is what I get from Woj' report just now, and that's the Ty Lue I know.
Yeah, I mean, safe to say, though, it is a mess right now in Los Angeles with what is going on with those Lakers. How about we focus on teams that are actually still playing? A couple of big storylines as we come into tonight with 2 Game 5s. Let's start with the reigning MVP. One of the storylines, James Harden. He'll try to pick up where he left off after averaging 39.5 points, 9.5 boards, 5 assists in Game 3 and 4. But will he be able to find his shot on the road at Oracle? He was just 38% from the field in the first 2 games of this series. So there's Harden. And then what about the Warriors? They're going to need another big performance from a former MVP, Kevin Durant. He's averaging 35.4 points this postseason, the most by any player through the first 10 games of a postseason since Michael Jordan back in 1992. Over in the East, the Bucks are just 1 win away from making their first appearance in the conference finals since 2001. Of course, Giannis is a big reason why. He's on pace to become the first Buck to average 30 and 10 in playoffs and a playoff series since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in 1974. And could Kyrie Irving be playing his final game as a Celtic? He's shooting just 31%, Stephen A. That's from the field, 20% from three-point range over Boston's last 3 games. Close to a must-win for them. Here's Kyrie.
What's the message amongst the team when they're back against the wall in the series right now?
Just let it fly, man. Everything you got. You know, the last 3 games, when they've pulled away, we haven't responded. And so we've just got to be able to move on to what's next, play better, and not play what I would say to be somewhat haphazard. I think that ultimately we just have to stay the course with what we're trying to accomplish. What's the message?
Yeah, amongst the players, what's the mindset?
Yeah, I mean, it's trying to do everything we can to get a win. You know, it's do or die, so leave it all out there.
Okay, that Bucks-Celtics game, the early one, which is in Milwaukee. Kyrie Irving, the biggest storyline, I think, coming in here, Stephen A. What exactly does he need to do tonight to keep Giannis and the Bucks from closing this thing out?
Well, first order of business is for him to pray. Pray very, very deeply. Get on your knees and pray for good luck, because you're going to need all the luck that you can get. The Boston Celtics from game 1 of this series hasn't resembled that team over the last 3 games. The Greek Freak has been absolutely phenomenal. Middleton has been stellar. So has Bledsoe. So has George Hill. And you got guys like Mirotic coming off the bench doing what he does. They've got size. They've been dominating in the paint. They've been hitting perimeter shots. And you've got 4 perimeter shooters. That includes the Greek Freak on the Milwaukee Bucks, who are shooting better from 3-point range than Kyrie Irving is shooting from the field. You combine that with the fact that Jason Tatum just hit a 3-pointer in Game 4, that Al Horford and Jaylen Brown have been playing relatively well, but nobody, not one single individual on the Boston Celtics have been a star, let alone a superstar, and you couple that with the fact that you're going up against the Greek Freak, who's resembled a superstar. It goes back to my initial point. Pray. And pray hard.
Kyrie Irving, 19 of 62 from the field in his last 3 games. That's one reason why the Bucks are 9-point favorites. Okay, Stephen A. Come back with Mike Wilbon in a little bit to talk about the game where you are in Oakland, Rockets Warriors. Thanks, Stephen A.
Ahead, we're going to get those predictions from Wilbon and Stephen A. Smith, and you never know what these two will come up with. That's coming your way on SportsCenter, as well as
up to Oakland for this Game 5 in a deadlocked Rockets-Warriors series. It's at Oracle. The Warriors have only won 3 of their last 5 games at home there this postseason. Carrie?
All right, so now we're joined on Coast to Coast, as mentioned, by David Lloyd. Got Stephen A. Smith in advance of tonight's game, Game 5 in Oakland. Stephen A., thanks for being here.
No problem.
So, after dropping both games in Houston, you still have the Warriors winning the series. You said that very confidently yesterday here. But if Klay Thompson and Steph Curry don't show up, how confident are you that they'll be able to take this game tonight?
No, I wouldn't be confident at all, but I don't anticipate that happening. I'm very, very confident because I believe in those brothers. I think they're the greatest shooting backcourt we've ever seen in basketball. I think Steph Curry is the greatest shooter we've ever seen in basketball. And the combination of those 2 guys with, as far as I'm concerned, the greatest player in the game today, and Kevin Durant, should propel you to victory. The Golden State Warriors have not been themselves. They've allowed Houston's physicality to get to them. They clearly haven't been making shots. Houston has done a very, very skillful job of putting Steph Curry in pick and roll situations where he's forced to guard James Harden 1 minute, Eric Gordon the next, on occasion Chris Paul, and as a result, Steph Curry has found himself in foul trouble all of those games. And so you can't have that if you're the Golden State Warriors. You got to figure out a way to remedy that, and I'm confident that Steve Kerr will be able to do it.
All right, so when you say you're confident that he'll be able to do that, what do you think he'll go to tonight? What will be his game plan?
Well, I think, first of all, he's going to remind Steph Curry, your priority is not defense. Your priority is staying out of foul trouble and staying on the court so you can get loose and do the kind of things you do offensively. Because when you are effective offensively, it puts immense pressure on the competition, and they're simply incapable of dealing with it. That's number one. Number two, I expect that APB that's been out on Klay Thompson to be rescinded. I think he will show up tonight. I think he will show out. He shot 1 of 6 from three-point range. He's not shooting well in this series from the field or from three-point range at all. And the fact is that I don't anticipate that will continue to last with Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson is not, he's playing for a new contract. He's a free agent, ladies and gentlemen. He's a free agent. This guy is looking for a max deal. He deserves a max deal based on his level of production with the Golden State Warriors, but this series hasn't boded well for him. You're trying to three-peat. You're trying to close out the era at the Oracle before you move across the bay to San Francisco. This could potentially be the Warriors' last home game at the Oracle if they lose tonight. I think they recognize it. I think they stand up and they respond. And we all know that Kevin Durant's going to show up. So that's the way I look at it. And let's not forget that Draymond Green shooting 62.5% from the field. He's played lights out this entire series thus far. And so I think the combination of all of those things propel Golden State to victory. You just got to get your backcourt playing the way that they're capable of playing. And it doesn't even require an explosion, Kerry. You just got to play good basketball. And they haven't been doing that.
That's it. Just play some good basketball, according to the Splash Brothers, who have not done that. Stephen A., thank you so much for joining us here on Coast to Coast. We'll all be watching tonight. Coming up, though, folks, is there a plan to get Steph and Klay going? You just heard Stephen A. say that he's pretty sure Steve Kerr will make some adjustments. The APB on Klay will be rescinded. So we talk about it in just a few moments. Stay with Coast to Coast, folks.
Kyrie is off. Kyrie's still struggling with that shot.
Have you ever had a shooting stretch like this?
Yeah, who cares?
Oh, my goodness. Tell us how you really feel.
When I step on the court, I got to do whatever it takes.
The Celtics are shoved up against the wall, down 3-1. They need Kyrie to be Kyrie, but he has not been that guy of late in this series. A combined 15 for 44 over the last 2 games. Could tonight be his last game in a C's uniform? New on SportsCenter. Here's what the Celtics are saying this hour about what needs to be done.
Playing smart, going out there and being aggressive, just let it fly.
What's made them so successful defensively against you this series, especially over the last few games?
Just making us be decision makers, testing us to make adjustments on the fly.
Throughout the course of the season, there's been ups and downs, and I think for the most part, we've taken each game and tried to be our best. I mean, tonight it's no different. You got to forget what happened in the rest of the series. Try to be your best tonight. We win tonight, you don't know what's going to happen. So your whole focus is on let's do our job each possession tonight.
For the last 3 games, when they've pulled away, we haven't responded, and so we've just got to be able to move on to what's next. Play better and not play what I would say to be somewhat haphazard. I think that ultimately we just have to stay the course with what we're trying to accomplish.
The Bucks took a commanding 3-1 lead by winning games 3 and 4 in Boston. Since seeding began in 1984, top seeds 58-1 when leading 3-1 in a best-of-7. Milwaukee is looking for its first conference finals appearance since 2001. Only 5 teams have longer active droughts: the Clippers, Wizards, Hornets, Knicks, and Blazers. Boston, the 46th team in NBA history to start a postseason 5-0. They're trying to avoid being the first to win the first 5 and then lose 4 straight to get bounced right out of the playoffs. And as we mentioned, Kyrie has to make shots if they want to turn this around. Irving has missed 43 shots over his last 3 games, his most missed field goal attempts in a 3-game span in his playoff career. Here's Seth Greenberg on the blueprint for Boston tonight.
For the Celtics to turn this series around, it's really simple. You've got to run good offense. You got to share the ball. You got to make the extra pass. Eliminate that one-on-one ISO type game. Because you know what? Your defensive transition is connected to your offensive execution and your shot selection. If you take bad shots, if you have bad floor bounce, all of a sudden, you know who rebounds the ball? The Greek Freak. You know what happens? He's attacking in transition. He's playing in space. He's getting to the rim. If you give help, he's kicking it out. Good offense equals good defensive transition. Good defensive transition gives you a chance to contain Giannis. That is the key to the rest of this series for the Celtics.
Bucks, the clear favorites to do this tonight. Our BPI gives Milwaukee a 74% chance to wrap it up in Game 5 at home, which would put Giannis and the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. As we mentioned, it's been a long time since they got there, and they'd be waiting for the winner of the Raptors-Sixers series. Kerry.
All right.
Has been epic. Portland, they need a signature Damian Lillard game tonight. Oh, come on! Jamal Murray. I think he's licking his chops there. It has been all Denver thus far. So many competitive games between these two teams. This, not one of them.
Yep, it was blowout Tuesday in the NBA playoffs. Game 5 last night in Denver with the Blazers and Nuggets tied at 2. Roll call. Jokic is here. Millsap is here. Let's give it up for Paul Millsap. 34 years old, consummate pro, averaging 19 and 9 in this series and taking Enes Kanter to school. Kanter not a great defensive player, but Paul Millsap getting it done. Rubs him off the pick, gets him in the paint. Absolutely. He was 5 for 5 in the first half when being guarded by Kanter, finished with 24 points and 8 boards. Millsap and Jokic, they're not fancy, they're not sexy, but they are brutally effective. Nikola there for the putback tip-in. How about the Nuggets? Lose a devastating 4-overtime game, then bounce back and roll through the next 2. Jokic, 19 boards, doing a lot of work on the offensive glass with 6 rebounds and scoring points off that, tying a team playoff record, by the way, with those 19 rebounds. Jamal Murray, while you're up there, could you get that? Thank you. Murray dishing it out as well, finding Mason Plumlee up top. And you got to, of course, get it to 15. There goes Jokic rolling off the pick. It's a blowout. We got more Nuggets highlights because we're just gratuitous like that. There's Jokic. He had a little runner to go. He had 25 points with the 19 rebounds and also 6 assists. Murray, the nice find there. He had 9 assists. The Nuggets roll. They pound the Blazers by 26 to take a 3-2 series lead. Tomorrow night, we got a Game 6. The Nuggets will try to change a disturbing trend for that team. Dating back to 1994, Denver has lost its last 4 when they have a chance to clinch a series on the road. That includes earlier this postseason when they were up 3-2 on the Spurs and lost by 17 in San Antonio before finally winning in 7. Kerry, do you have a blowout too?
I do, David.
Okay.
Thank you. It was a blowout Tuesday, as described. Joel Embiid, clearly sick, folks, as we talked about it, and he's shared that with us for some time. He was probable earlier in the day. There he is, not looking 100%, and you'll see it on the court as well. Not effective, throwing the ball out of bounds. He gets the ball in the corner again. Fred VanVleet able to steal it from him because he's just, he doesn't have it, and he's running slow. 1 minute left in the first. Kawhi actually had it, folks. Second quarter, Ben Simmons taking the ball up the court. He turns it over. You know, they just did not have it. Why is that? It's just a bad night. So Brett Brown's not happy either. Let's listen in.
Offense was in there, defense was in there. Really terrible tonight.
They laid an egg, Jimmy Butler would say. Raptors leading by 16. Siakam misses the 3. But who's there? Danny Green Money, as in green money. I'm here all day, folks. Raptors outscored the Sixers by 21 points on 3-pointers in the first half. The Raptors were outscored by 21 in games 1 through 4. So guess what? Kawhi's also putting on a dunk show. He wasn't in the dunk contest for All-Star Weekend. In fact, he said, I'm going to save it for this game, and I'm okay with that, Kawhi. So we're moving on to the third quarter. Again, I'm here all week, folks, if you guys care. Leonard drives, another dunk. David, I wish I could hear you talking to me because I'm sure you're enjoying this highlight as well, with this jazzy ensemble that we're playing in the background. Embiid checks out. Now Drake is trolling him by doing the dance that Joel Embiid does. And Joel is giving us sad face. I'm just going to look at the box score. You did bad, buddy. Hopefully you feel better. Sixers Raptors, 125-89. What does it all mean? Because I'm going to talk about that Kawhi guy. Dominated the postseason, and he's on the verge of tying a franchise record. He scored at least 20 points in 7 straight games. One shy of Vince Carter's longest streak in Raptors postseason history. We'll see if the Sixers may be able to do something else, but I doubt it, because here it says we'll see if they can close out tomorrow, they being the Raptors. This jazzy tune is throwing me off, guys. I don't know. I feel like I need